Svaros.
Morning in progress.
Okay. Good morning. Good Chodesh. Yitesim Aleph, second white line. Vamine Rabba Mamla Rabbi Ami. And some say Ami Lam Rabbi Rabba. So Rabba Mamla is one who's asking the question. Either he asked it from Rabbami or he asked it from Rabbi Rabba. What was the question? Here goes the question. Hoysam Maleches. The Mokom Shei Efsher La Elam Kain Minatezes Ubata Vitiza Vizika. That's the question. That's the case. The animal, what do we know about? We know it's Roros, it's Chasi Nezek. And also the Gemara on top of the page talked about Shinui. How did the Gemara call it? The Lashon of the Gemara was Yeshinul, Enshinul Roros, the Rabbi Nezek means if it did Roros Peshuna, if it had a double Ptor. The Gemara wasn't sure. The Gemara left it as a question if it would be a Shinui that it kicked, but it didn't kick directly, it kicked the Tzrora, so it had two reasons. Well, first of all, it was Mishuna, that alone would have been Chasi Nezek, and also the fact that it was Tzrora, so it's also reason why it's Chasi Nezek, maybe it gets a double Ptor. And the Gemara wasn't sure, the Gemara left it as a question. Here the Gemara is assuming on the side, Rashi says on the side that there would be a Ptor, on the side that it would be a quarter, half of a half, would be a quarter. Here, it was going in a place that even if it would have walked normally, it would have also shot out pebbles. It's impossible to walk in this place. It was full of pebbles. Even when the cow is going to walk normally, it would have also shot out pebbles. But the mice said kick. But the mice said kick. The word zar is going in a place where it's impossible only if it is going to shoot out pebbles. But the mice it kicked, and that's how it shot out pebbles and it was damaged. The more wants to know, is it going to be called regel? I mean, Chatzor, it's going to be regular. I can look at it as regular tzroros, or you can look at it like Mishnah tzroros. Mahu chibin the Yavshalai orcheyu. Since it's impossible to have gone there without shooting out pebbles, so it's normal and it's called regular tzroros and it's chasi nezek. Odil mahashtem machmas bit coming out tzroros, but the mice said we kicked it, and therefore what? Therefore it's going to be Mishnah. It's going to be yeshinu. According to Mandam, we had a question before. We weren't sure if yeshinu tzroros could be as chasi nezek anyway. But if it would be Chatzi Nezek, then it's not enough to mean over here because either if it's normal or it's not normal, it's going to be Chatzi Nezek. But if you hold that, you get a double ptor, that you get down to a quarter, so then there's a tzad to say over here that is it considered a quarter? The fact that even if it wouldn't have kicked, it also would have been kick. It would also would have been shot out Sororo. So maybe look at it like normal. I don't understand this. I can't say I understand the two studim. One is that it would have happened anyway, even if it would have normally would have happened anyway. Therefore, you look at it like Sororo of regular, or the mice had kicked. Even if it wouldn't have kicked, it also would have shot out Sororo. But the mice had kicked. So you look at it like normal Sororo. You look at it like Mishnah Sororo. Nafkamina. So the nafkamina that Rashi talks about is if it was in Mishus Hayachid and Sororo is Chayiv Chatzi Nezek, and if it would have been Meshula, so then it would have been a kind of a quarter Nezek according to one side. It means we never answered the question about Shinil Rosh or not. On the side that you say Yeh Shinil Rosh and it goes down to a quarter Nezek, is this going to be called a quarter or is this called regular Rosh because it would have happened anyway? There's another side to say in the Gemara that it's talking about in Rishus Rabin, and you want to know is this called Karen or not? Karen, if it's Rishus Rabin, then it's Rosh is spotted. Really, it's not so simple. The Gemara is going to come up soon, and we have already a what is it called when somebody has a prejudice? We have a prejudice because we learned the beginning of the Masechta that we hold that and it's going to come up soon that that's going to be the next sugya if Thoros is part of Rishus Rabin. If we assume Thoros is part of Rishus Rabin and Karen is Chai Rishus Rabin, so this question will also be relevant to that sugya. If you're going to say that it's regular, that's going to be part of Rishus Rabin. If you say that's Karen, that's going to be Chai Rishus Rabin, and then you don't have to go into the question about the Yeshin and the Thoros or not. And that's the end of the Gemara take you. So I really put it in yellow. I could put it really in pink. It's a question without an answer. The Gemara doesn't know if it was going to a place where it would have happened anyway. But the mice said kick. Do you look at it like regular or like Karen or like Karen? That's the end of that Gemara. So I take out the word. I'm sorry. You have to take out this word bata. They say that it's a mistake. And we'll just cross out this word. which in a short way of saying that is Svaros B'Shus HaRabim. What does it say? It's going Rishus HaRabim, and it shot out stones. Not that it kicked. It says kick, but it crossed that out.
A regular case.
Regular Svaros. So we would have talked professional language. Svaros B'Shus HaRabim.
Yeah.
That's probably why somebody put in the word bata, because there'd be more reason to say a whole case. But the way they say all the kisvayad, all the manuscripts don't have the word bata. So this is the real Gemara, that it was going with Shesarabim and it shot out stones and it damaged. Mahu. A kitzer, that's how you say it in English. So what do we know about Svaros B'Shus? So we're smart. It's what?
Betsy, isn't Betsy message?
No, why would you say that?
That's
Svaros B'Shus Rabim. That
Svaros would be
Svaros is
like
Chatzin,
regular, so
and so it's part of B'Shus Rabim.
should be putter.
So how do we know that? Because we learned on Daf Gimel over there. The Gemara said the whole first sugi in the Masechta told the same Yosef and Lav Yosef. The Gemara said that's talking about Svaros. And why is it called Regel? One shot the Gemara said it because part of B'Shus Rabim. So we're already indoctrinated that Svaros is part of B'Shus Rabim. But here the Gemara opens up the question: is Svaros part of B'Shus Rabim or not? No. What is the halacha about Svaros B'Shus Rabim? The Karen the Mina lay b'chayev. So do we told to the regular? Do we look at it like Karen, or do we look at it like regular? Why should we look at it like Karen? Not because it's Mishana, nothing's Mishana over here, because the base Chatzin Nezek. The Chatzin Nezek go together with the Chiyuv of B'Shus Rabim. And we know usually Karen is Chai B'Shus Rabim and regular is part of B'Shus Rabim. So this Chatzin Nezek Svaros, since it's Chatzin Nezek, so maybe it has like Karen, not because by SM. Now, if you go to the Svara, it could be that you wouldn't be able to figure it out. By Karen, there's a reason why it's part of B'Shus Rabim, maybe Chai B'Shus Rabim. But the fact that Regel, Svaros over here, is Chai Chatzin Nezek, it's normal. Is there any difference between any reason to make it like Karen? So I don't know Svaros, but the Gemara seems to say that does it have a din of Chatzin Nezek like Karen and it's Chai B'Shus Rabim, or does it have a din like Regel that's part of B'Shus Rabim? So this is the question. Svaros B'Shus Rabim is a Chai B'Shus Rabim. Svaros is a Chai B'Shus Rabim. Amalei Misava told to the Regel. So he said, who's that? Observer said it's reasonable to say that it's told to the Regel and therefore it's part of, which is the same thing the Gemara said at the beginning of the Masechta. The part of B'Shus Rabim. That was our impression the whole time. That's what's part of B'Shus Rabim, and he says so also. But the Gemara now is going to ask questions on that. No, not yet. Another question. Now Gemara is going further. Another question. The first case was that everything happened in Rishus Rabim. There was a Sadat Eschayim. The Moshe is not Pater. Now, since Svaros is Kocho, it wasn't direct, so you could talk about a case where the animal was in one Rishus and the damage happened in another Rishus. The animal was walking in Rishus Rabim, and that's where the stone shot out, but the damage in Rishus Yachid. So what do you look at? We say that in a regular case of Regel, the animal and the damage is in the same place. If he's walking in Rishus Rabim, he damaged in Rishus Rabim. He's walking in Rishus Yachid, he damaged in Rishus Yachid. But here, the fact that it's shooting out, so it could be two different Rishuyas. So the animal's walking in Rishus Rabim, but the throws that he shot out damaged in Rishus Yachid. What do you about that? Anybody have an opinion?
Well, the one that says that he's
Pater in Rishus Rabim.
then he should still be putter, because he's walking. If it's Regel, it's Svaros of Regel, he should still.
But Regel usually the damage that the item that gets damaged is
Usually
also
stays in
Rishus Rabim. But here, since there's
So maybe
shooting
it's
out,
like
so maybe you go
unusual that you care.
no, not unusual, no, not because unusual, but because the Rishus Yachid. Usually the animal and the place where the damage happens is in the same
You
place.
just used the word usual. You just said usual. So if you said
Not because now it's nothing to do with the subject about the animal being usual or not. It doesn't have
I
to do
thought
with
if it's usual that the stones will stay in the same rishus, then if it goes to a different rishus, that's unusual.
No, it says that it does make a difference if it shoots out 10 meters and it stays in Rishus Rabim, or shoots 10 meters and goes into Rishus Yachid. Just because there's a fence over there doesn't make anything abnormal about it. So and the word usual doesn't always mean.
Okay.
So the question is, do you go according to the place where the animal is? And since he's in Rishus Rabim, so he's Pater. Or do you go according to where the damage was and that happened in Rishus Yachid? You could do the opposite also. I think, I'm not sure. How about the opposite? If the animal's walking in Rishus Yachid, Rishus Anizik, and which is anybody, and it damaged in Rishus Harabim, would that also be a question? Do you go according to the animal? If the animal was in Rishus Hanizik, and
There's more sorry to say that the person who puts his fruits in Rishus Harabim, he knows that it's susceptible to
all kinds of damages.
Yeah, and he knows that, right. He
Mhm.
knows that things can fly.
But according to that svar, you're going to say that the more has no question, since the damage happened in Rishus Hanizik, so you should be
Right.
chayav.
The other hand,
Go the animal, okay.
the other hand, if you also go after the animal
Mhm.
who has rights to walk,
Mhm.
Kedarko, we should say.
So the Gemara only asks one direction, that it's walking in Rishus Harabim, and the damage happened in Rishus Yachid. Amalei,
What?
the animal's walking in Rishus Harabim, and the damage
That's
happened
what
in.
they asked.
That's the case. That's the case the Gemara talks about. Amalei, also Abzer is talking. Rabbi Yemi asked Abzer first said Rishus Harabim's brother. Then he said this case, Amalei Akira Ein Kan Anocha Yesh Kan. That's the harder way to read it. That they were usually the terminology is not the terminology of Mazik. It's about Hilchah Shabbos. You need Akira and Anocha, and if you have no Akira, you're not Chai for the Anocha alone. But he's usually how he was using a borrowed term to say that if there was no chiyuv in the place where the animal was, so we're not going to be chayiv him for the place where it landed. There was no akira means usually when you pick up the object and then you put it down. Akira in rishus, one rishus, and another rishus, or dalaramis, whatever else.
Akira because the animal's walking and it was just
and that he's potter for means if the akira would have been potter for the act that he did, it would have been potter because he's rishus and rabbim. So just because it landed in rishus yachid, he should be chayiv. No. So it's another way of saying
we're going after the
animal, right? So Zera said that he's potter. So what do we have? We had 2 points. The second one is obviously built on top of the second one. The first one was that you should know that regular Torah's Rishus Harabim is potter, and now he says that even if the animal damaged in Rishus Yachid, since he was walking in Rishus Harabim, that's where he shot out the Torahs. So also he's potter. Now they're going to be cautious, and the cautious are all going to say just an overview again, like a pattern that the Gemara is going to be using. It's going to be in places where it seems to say that Torah is chayiv in Rishus Harabim.
It's going to imply that, and that's going to be the kasha.
And that's going to be a kasha on both of these members. We can take this away meanwhile, because even though we had it, this is the first Gemara.
Where?
It's Rishus Harabim.
When there was just a Rabin, yeah.
And that's going to even be an attack on the foundation of the whole thing. That is Torah is chayiv in Rishus Harabim.
All right.
If Zera said potter, and the Gemara has kasha that Bryce says chayiv. That's the main kasha. And in order to get out of the kasha, the Gemara is going to say each time the Gemara is going to say kasha again and again, and the answer is going to be that it was the damage happened in Rishus Yachid, and over there I have to give in that case is chayiv. Means you have to give the Bryce. The kasha is going to be that Torah is chayiv in Rishus Yachid, in Rishus Harabim. I'm sorry, and either it's going to knock down your whole building, and you're wrong completely. You said Torah is part of Rishus Harabim, it's really chayiv Rishus Harabim. If you want to save your building, so you can save half a building, you can save that Torah is part of Rishus Harabim. But if it's damaged in Rishus Yachid, you have to give in that case. At least that's going to be chayiv, because the Bryce has to be some case that Torah is chayiv Rishus Harabim.
Okay.
So we'll say that if the animal was in Rishus Harabim, but he damaged in Rishus Yachid, so we'll give in to that. So Zera, even though he was strong on both cases, he's going to have to give in to the second one and lower his the intensity of his opinion that is potter l'gamri. That's going to be the kashas over here. So we'll start with some kashas over here. That's the okay. Well, too much. It was walking on the road. It was walking on the road, and it shot out stone pebbles, both in Rishus Yachid or Rishus Harabim. It's chayiv. If you take out a face value, it says that's first Rishus Harabim is chayiv. Doesn't distinguish. It says if it was going on the road and it shot out throws, no difference Rishus Yachid or Rishus Harabim is chayiv. My love, it is a Rishus Harabim, Rishus Harabim. Doesn't it say? Take it simply, it means that throws is chayiv Rishus Harabim. Even though everything happened, both the animal and the damage happened in Rishus Harabim. And it sounds like it's chayiv, how much against everything that Abzer said, even the first halacha that he said. And the Gemara says, I can get out of it. Lo, I could say that is not that first case. Lo, I could say it just means to say chayiv if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid, even though the animal was in Rishus Harabim. But if the damage also happened in Rishus Harabim, then I could say still that I'm potter. But you said on that also that it's not true.
When you said Bain, Bereshus Yachid means where the animal is,
it doesn't
not where the damage is. we were reading it like where the damage is.
And we didn't differentiate.
And now this
Now we
way,
see-
when he says low, he means the animal could be in either place. He still is going to be high.
The animal could be even in Rishus Harabim and still be high, provided that the damage happened in Rishus Hayachid. Right. That when the Brisa says that it's high even in Rishus Harabim, that doesn't mean that the damage happened in Rishus Harabim. It means the animal was in Rishus Harabim. But the damage had to have happened in Rishus Hayachid in order to be high. It was going, the animal road and it's shot out stones. No difference if the animal was in Rishus Yachid, means it walked off the road into Rishus Yachid, or it stayed on the road in Rishus Rabim, it could be Chayiv. But you have to add on, provided that the damage happened in Rishus Yachid, because Observer wants to keep to his opinion, at least the minimum, that Srovos is Poter Rishus Rabim. The only thing he's going to have to give in that the second halacha that he said is not true. This halacha is not going to be. And the kasha is, you said this case also is Poter. You said that if there's no akira, so there's no anochi either, and therefore, if the animal is Rishus Rabim, you said it's Poter in that case also. So he said, right, I retract. After retract on the second one. That's the first kasha, and the same are gonna be true for the following kashas. Esmei, another kasha against Rab Zera. Dorsal akli v'shibratu, v'nafal hashever al kli acher v'shibro. So far, it's word for word the Mishnah.
Dorsa,
the animal trampled on a kli and broke it. That's regular. And it's high for that nezek shalim.
and the shever is like a shard of it.
Right. And then nafal hashever al kli acher v'shibro, and then a shard of the first kli fell onto another kli and broke it. And the first one is regular, so it pays nezek shalim, and the second one is tzroros, so it pays chatzin nezek. So far, that's the Mishnah. Tani Allah, there's a brisa that it was learned on the Mishnah. That's only if everything happened in Rishus HaNizek. So regular chayav nezek shalim, and tzroros is going to be chayav chatzin nezek. Aval b'shus harabim, al rishon petura, v'alachim chayaves. But if this thing would have happened in Rishus HaRabim, the first one will be Poter, because regular is Poter Rishus HaRabim. The second one will be Chayiv, because it seems to say that's Rosh is Chayiv Rishus HaRabim. So it's much against everything that you said. My love, it is a Rishus HaRabim, Mizika Rishus HaRabim. Doesn't it mean simply what it says? That's Rosh is Chayiv even in Rishus HaRabim. And again, he gets out of it the same way. Lo, I could say not. I could say that damage has to have happened in Rishus Yachid, even in the case of Tzroros. I could say that's the case that Yechayiv. It's regular Potter because everything happens in the same domain. Happened with Rishus Rami Potter. But the case of shooting out, it could be that it shot out into Rishus Yachid, and that's why Yechayiv. But you said that case is also Potter. You said I have the right niggan. You said that there's no akira, you Potter, even though it landed in Rishus Yachid, the damage in Rishus Yachid. But he said since the animal was in Rishus Rami, it should be Potter. So this case also does against you. So he said, you're right, I have to give in. I gave in already, I have to give in again. Means it's same teretz. He has to give in that the second law is not true, and it's going to be chayiv if the damage happened, even though the animal's going in Rishus HaRabim. And third kasha, the first kasha was from these two from Brises. Now, Eini, is that so? So this is going to be kasha from Rabbi Yochanan, not from Brisa. But are you arguing with Rabbi Yochanan?
Is that so?
80, is that so?
On what?
On you observer that are saying that Tzroros is going to be Potter in Rishus HaRabim. Right. The Gemara is going to bring a Yochanan that also seems to say that Tzroros is Chayv in Rishus HaRabim. It comes out that the Brises and Rabbi Yochanan, the early Amarim, the Pashas was they hold that Tzroros is Chayv in Rishus HaRabim, and our impression that we learned from the beginning of the Masechta that Tzroros is Potter Rishus HaRabim, told to the regular, is a Chiddush. Rav Papa said so, and here Observer said so, but it wasn't so simple. And the Gemara is being matching the whole time to uphold this new Chiddush that Tzroros is Potter Rishus HaRabim. And now this questioning, and now Vom Rabbi Yochanan, Ein Chatzik Cholok, Lo L'Shus HaYachad, Lo L'Shus HaRabim. This is going to be the third kasha that Rabbi Yochanan said there's no difference between Chatzi Nezek, between Rishus HaYachad and Rishus HaRabim, which means that it's Chayv in Rishus HaRabim also.
Meaning it doesn't matter if it's Karen or if it's regular.
Okay, you're already saying the teretz. You're saying a possible teretz already.
Okay.
Maybe it's talking about Karen. By Karen, it's true. By Karen, there's no difference with Shus Yachad, with Shus Rabbim. It's Chayiv even with Shus Rabbim. It doesn't say Ein Tzroros. It says Ein Chatzi Nezek. It says Chatzi Nezek is not different between Rishus Yachad and Rishus Rabbim. If you talk about Karen, we're happy with that. Because Karen is Chayiv in Rishus Yachad, Chayiv in Rishus Rabbim. It is going to be a little chiddush because Rab Tarfon knows that Karen Rishus Nezek is Chayiv Nezek Shalom. So it's not going to Rab Tarfon. Karen Rishus Nezek is Chayiv Chatzi Nezek and also Rishus Rabbim. Very good. But the Gemara thinks that it says a general thing, Chatzi Nezek, which means Tzroros also. And it says Tzroros, there's no difference between Rishus Yachad and Rishus Rabbim, which would be mashma, that Tzroros is Chayiv also in Rishus Rabbim. Doesn't it mean an overall statement that Tzroros is butter, even if everything was Rishus Rabbim, also you're Chayiv? No, again, Rabbi Zera could answer that. No. It is the Rishus Rabbim is equal to Rishus Yachid. It only means you're Chayiv if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid. But if the damage happened in Rishus Rabbim, then you're potter by Tzroros. But you said that also is potter. You said that case also is potter since there's no akira, the animal was in Rishus Rabbim, you potter even though again the Rishus Yachid. So he said once again for the third time that I give in, that all these places say that there is a chiyuv of Tzroros in Rishus Rabbim. I have to at least give in that if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid, it is potter. You don't say this for akira and kan.
It is chayiv.
It is chayiv, right? Maybe I made a mistake. That you have to say that case at least is chayiv. Even though if everything would be in Rishus Rabbim, then it would be potter. But this last kasha, the Gemara is another teretz for. This last kasha is not so strong because what the Yaakov hinted, if you want, I could say a teretz to this last kasha, Kem Rabbi Yochanan and Karen, that Rabbi Yochanan wasn't referring to all Chatzi Nezek. When he said Chatzi Nezek, he meant Karen. And Karen is true that Karen is no difference between Rishus Yachad and Rishus Rabbim. But maybe by Tzroros, he would have held that it's potter even if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid. He's not talking about the Tzroros at all, maybe. So the Gemara just says for the Lumdis, but the Meister, the Gemara slugged that up from the two prices anyway. This was only the third kasha, but we did prove that the Tzroros is going to be chayiv if it damage happened in Rishus Yachid. End of that sugya, and I think it's going to be the end of the sugya of Tzroros. That's the end of the sugya of Tzroros. You can make a big stop over here. We finished the sugya of Tzroros. So today's Gemara was that Tzroros is. We had one Gemara before that also. What was the first Gemara we did?
So it's a machlok. It's chayiv and Rishus Rabbim.
Yes, but it's a machlokes. We see machlokes. The Gemara doesn't make machlokes out of it. The Gemara makes like the pashtus. The pashtus of the brises and Rabbi Yochanan was that it's chayiv and Rishus Rabbim. Rabbi Zera said not, and he answers everybody. He answers everybody. So everybody, and Rav Papa said so. Rav Rava said so also. And the Gimel over there.
Those that argue said, but at least if it damaged in Rishus Yachid, they gave in and said it would be chayiv.
So, not those that argue. Everybody has to give in. It means there's nobody that says that it's going to be potter if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid. So Tzroros is potter Rishus Rabbim, but if the damage happened in Rishus Yachid, even though the animal was in Rishus Rabbim, also it's going to be chayiv. The first Gemara was about that it's going in a place where it would have damaged, even if it would have walked normally, and it walked in a kick. The Tzroros, he said that it's Tzroros normal. That he said that it's Tzroros. So that the Gemara. What does it take? Okay, loose again. David Mamish Antan. Start loose again, and nothing to do with Tzroros and loose again. In the beginning, we're in the Yud Tes Summit base. What is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th line. Yosef, Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Rabbi Shaya, Akila, Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, who's not the regular Rabbi Yehuda Nasi.
He's a grandson, huh?
He's a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He's called Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, and Rabbi Shaya was sitting on the porch of Rabbi Yehuda. Does that mean on the porch of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya? I'm not sure, but they were sitting on somebody's porch. Maybe 2 people, maybe 3 people. A issue came out from both of them. Means it doesn't say who asked the question, but one of them said something. One said the question, one said the answer. We don't know who said what, but the issue came out from amongst them. Kish Kishab is never out. So this is going back to the Mishnah. Nothing about Tzroros. The Mishnah said the case of the regel is Chayiv Nezek Sholem, Rishus Yachid, and Karen is Chatzi Nezek. So the Mishnah says case of the regel That's if it was not walking normally, it damaged as it was going. But if it would have kicked, then it's Karen, did it with his foot. So this Gemara is going to talk about more things. Is it considered regular or is it considered Karen? So we're not in the subject of Swaros anymore. We're the subject of regular in contrast to Karen. Even though it did it with his foot, it's not always going to be regular. It could be Karen. The question is if it's Mishon or not, is it not normal? So there was a question over here. Kishkashab is Nova. So it wagged its tail. The animal damaged by wagging its tail. It wagged its tail and it hit a glass.
In the Rosh Hashanah, we don't know yet.
That'll depend if you want to know if it'll make a difference both in Rishus Yachid and Rishus Rabbim. If it's going to be regel, it'll be potter.
Okay.
If it's going to be keren, then it's going to be chayiv chatzin nezek. In the Rishus Yachid, if it's regel, it's going to be chayiv nezek shalom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There's nafkaminas both ways. If it's Rishus Yachid or Rishus Rabbim, but the question is it keren or regel? If it keren, it goes according to all the lachas of keren. If it's regular, it has all the lachas of regular. So wagging the tail is not considered normal. It's not a normal thing to do. Kishkishab is not what?
I never saw a
You would think it is normal.
Yeah.
Amalei idach.
Flies, they walk away flies. That's
Amalei idach. So we didn't know who said what, but one asked the question and the other one said the answer. He should go in the carrying its holding on to its tail wherever it goes. He has to watch his tail. That's the answer. Should he watch?
Normal.
That's normal. The Chor means to say that it's normal, and therefore he's potter. He's potter in Rishus Rabbim. If he goes into the Rishus Yachid, he should hold the animal, shouldn't go into the other person's Rishus. But he seems to say that it's a normal thing. The Gemara is a question. The Gemara is a question. Yachi Karen Nami, name of Zena began Be'elech. How can you say it's high for Karen? Should he hold on to the horn the whole time while he goes into the street? Is that a question?
Karen Nami.
Should he hold on to his horns? He said he's potter for going in the street with his animal when it wags its tail and it breaks things because he can't hold on to the tail. So should he hold on to the horn when he goes in the street?
No, but we know that Karen has a compensation of Hetzi Nezik for the first 3 times. You don't hold on to the horn, but if it does damage, you pay half.
Why should he pay half? Should he hold on to the horn? I'm not sure, but the Gemara answers, what's the comparison between the horn and the tail? Karen Karen is not normal, and therefore what?
When it damages.
And therefore it's high, but this is normal. I don't get the question answer. He's saying what you said, that Karen is high, and this is not here it's normal.
Maybe
Normal is
the
regular.
wagging tail is less damaging than Karen.
No, it doesn't, not necessarily. It could have knocked off
You can knock something
$1,000 bars.
In general.
That's not the point. That's not what the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara is not.
The Karen
The
is
Gemara looks in general. The Gemara
I mean,
looks at the
horn.
damages. Shava mana kishava fruta, $1 million, and a fruta is all the same. You have to pay for damages. How much you have to pay? You have to pay how much you damage, but the severity. The Gemara is looking at that as damages more. So the Gemara is trying to find
when
different,
it's damaging by the horn, that's unusual.
and therefore,
That's why it pays Hetzi Nezik. But when it's wagging its tail, that's normal.
and therefore, the nizik has to watch. What do you have to say?
When they said, "What should I watch the horn?" the answer is
You should watch the horn.
how did they ask?
Should I watch?
Exactly.
Should I hold on to the horn and go? Is that I'm supposed to go on the street holding on to my animal's horn? What's the answer to the question?
The reason you don't have to hang on to the horn is because it's not going to necessarily you wrong. If it does something wrong, it's going to be unusual.
That's why I should hold on to the horn or not hold on to the horn.
I think on both cases you don't have to.
You don't have to hold on. Okay, so that's
different anyway.
okay.
This
So
reason I don't hang on to the horns because it's unusual if something happens, and this one it's usual. So, or am I making no sense?
no, it's good, but which one is more reason to hold on to? The one which is usual,
More reason
probably.
to hold on to the one that you're going to have to pay
And
attention.
and we're saying now, we're saying that it's regular, and therefore you put there. You don't have to hold on to it. You don't go on the street holding on to the animal's tail.
There's
So you
no
put
damages.
And all the people that have glasses around there, bottles, they should keep away because animals coming down the road and he wags his tail and the owner is not holding his tail. And when he comes down with the horns, so then we say that it's not expected, not normal. And therefore what? The owner is going to be high because the people don't have to be on guard for it.
Yeah. Okay.
So the point of the Gemara is to say how much other people have to be on guard. Things that are normal. So therefore the people have to be on guard.
Right.
And the
More
owner
and
doesn't
more aware.
the owner doesn't have to. the people have to watch out for their things in the Rosh Hashanah because it's normal. But the Karen, they don't have to watch out for their things because it's not expected. But we're going to be mechayiv the owner if it damages. Chatzinezek will get a discount because it wasn't so expected. But we're not going to tell the people to stay away from the animal because it's not expected that he should damage. Maybe that's how the Gemara reads. But the point is, if we would talk simple, we would say that there's agdara, there's a definition, parameters of what's called keren, what's called regel, and regel is normal, keren is not normal, and this thing of wagging the tail is normal, and therefore it's regel. That's the regular way that animal walks, it wags his tail, that's business as usual, and therefore it's part of Rishus Rabbim. Also in Rishus Yachid, you can talk about Rishus Yachid also. The more sees we talk about Rishus Rabbim, you can talk about Rishus Yachid also, and talk about that it's chai because it's normal, and Karen's going to be only chatzinezek because it's not normal.
So the store owners, do they assume that the store owners put their wares out into the Rishus Rabbim?
Yeah, but they're doing it. The Gemara is going to talk about it, so the Mishnah is going to talk about it if it's in a place where the animals are usual to go in the middle of the street. So then they can't put their things there. They have to know animals walk around.
Like Yaakov on Kabbat Street, and the car comes by the garbage truck and knocks it over. What happens then? That's it. That's the story.
But it's not the difference is that the truck is by humans. It's supposed to be right. So so it's not the old days. You had animals walking the streets, and now we'd have to down on the
Why
if your dog would knock it over.
Have a good story.
How is he knocking? He's knocking it off because he's just passing by on his merry way, not because he wanted to knock it over.
Right.
So then he'd be protest. It'd be regular b'shus harabim. If your dog would do something which is just passing by and something, whatever,
Or he's running into a cat.
he wants to go after a cat. So it goes crazy. So is that considered regular? Maybe that's considered regular. I don't know. Whatever's normal, regular, that's part of b'shus harabim. Right, but then the question is right. So they're saying the most we'll talk about could be the scenario is a little different than us nowadays, but the more we'll talk about the question when you have things on the side of the store, right outside, is that considered Rishus Rabbim or not?
Right.
But if it is Rishus Rabbim, then it'll be potter, and the store owner has to know he's doing it at his own risk. If the animal's going to eat from it, so he's potter. But we'll see that a little bit further down. So one of the Gemara say that wagging the tail is normal. It's regular. Since it's such a normal thing to do, to wag the tail. So what was the question in the first place? Did you have a question that wagging the tail is normal? The Gemara answers, extra vigorous wagging. Means regular wagging wasn't a question. I'm sure that's considered regular. Any translation for the word kishkush, like wagging is a good, more or less wagging the tail. So that's a normal way. And the Gemara did have a question about kishkush, if he was doing something not the regular,
A little faster than normal.
faster and more vigorous, whatever, stronger. So that's the most question: is that normal or not? And we should have a question if the Gemara puts that into the whole Shakavatari, and he said, yeah, that's also normal, or that the Gemara didn't talk about. But that's the end of the sugya. Wagging the tail is considered normal, and it's regular Rishus Rabbim. In the Rishus Yachid, it's probably going to be there's a sholem because it's normal. It's not Karen. And if it will be,
So what are we left with? Kishkish, is it normal or not?
Kishkish is normal, and Kishkish Yisera is a question. Regular wagging the tail,
Kishkish Yisera,
that's
is
a
it
question.
normal?
Is that right? Is that going to be regular or not? And that maybe the Gemara didn't answer.
Oh, okay.
Next question. This was about what? Kishkish. Kishkish Abiznava. Oh, no? Okay, wrong color. Okay, we'll leave it. Kishkish was never. Next one was Kishkish Yamasa. This is the animal's organ that it wagged it and it damaged somehow. Something was under its organ and it wagged it in a way that it damaged it. So, not is that normal? Of course, it's probably doing it because he's already in heat. So, is that considered normal or not? Karen love Yitzchak Katakafla. Achanami Loshna. Or Dilma, Karen Kapanas Alhazik, Ha, and Kapanas Alhazik. Here the Gemara seems to coming to analyze what is the Hagdara of Karen. What's Karen? We had a couple of Gemaras about
I
Karen.
thought we know that Karen is with Kavanah,
Kavanah Alhazik.
Lahazik.
Right. And it's not the regular, it isn't this everyday thing. It's Kavanah when it wants to damage, when it wants to destroy, then it gets into this mood and Kavanah Alhazik. That's its intention to damage. Here it's not intention to damage, but it is something that is what's the word you call it?
Unusual.
But something that he got aroused in.
It's horrible.
The word the Yetzer, call it inclination. Extra something something aroused it because he got angry, whatever it was. But that's the reason why the animal. So here it's a different kind of arousal, but it's also something which is in the same emotional
Strong.
that the
It's
Yetzer
strengthened.
was a katakifle, was what maybe called attacking it, or it got an emotional attack. So is a difference if it's doing it for destructive purposes or because of its desires purposes. It's also the same category as Karen, maybe, or maybe Karen is only when it's Kavanas al Hazik, and this is not Kavanas al Hazik. So it seems that the Gemara here is coming to define the category called Karen. The truth is that we had at the beginning of the Masechta a couple of times that Mishuna is not the fact that it's Kavanas al Hazik, that's Mishuna. We even had a case about Kalba Dachal Imri, Tanagola Dachal Shura Dachal Tanagola. We had a kasha that the Kagdor of Karen, it happens to be Kavanas al Hazik, but is that the definition? How about if it ate something, not because it wanted to destroy, it was hungry, but it ate something which is not usual for it to attack, like a dog to attack a big sheep. If it be a small sheep, it's normal, but a big sheep, and the Gemara says over there that is Mishuna, and we said at that time that the Kagdor of Karen is not Kavanas al Hazik, it's that it's Mishuna. Anything which is different than the regular, that's called Karen. Kavanas al Hazik happens to be an example of something being different, but the point is that it's different. And this Gemara talks about, we said at the time that Kavanas al Hazik might be a chumrah. It's a chumrah that is coming, but it's not the Hagdara of the mazik. And here the Gemara talks about, is it because it's Yitzuka is it because Kavanas al Hazik? So I think that we're trying to talk about these Gemaras. They're trying to define what is the mazik of Karen. What is it? What is Karen? Karen, we know Karen is horns, goring, and it's because Kavanas al Hazik, which is Meshuna, it's not normal. But when you want to be able to make the application to other cases, you have to know what is the exact definition of Karen. The other Gemara spoke about Meshuna. This Gemara talks about Kavanas al Hazik. The Gemara is not sure. Take it. The Gemara leaves it as a question: is it Kavanas al Hazik or is it because any kind of emotional arousal? And the Gemara leaves it as a question. The Gemara doesn't know if
Here wouldn't the question be, is Mishuna enough by itself? It always has to have a Mishuna aspect, doesn't it? And thus it becomes Muad.
Okay, but then the Gemara over there
So
by
does it have to be Mishuna? I was talking to my groups about this. That Mishuna, it seems like it's always Mishuna, but then does it have to have Kavana too?
So the case of the dog eating the sheep shouldn't, it's not Kavanas al Hazik, it's not Yitzchak if it's just hungry, and now it's very hungry, whatever, it decided to attack someone bigger than him. The Gemara over there sounds like everything is just told the five side, the dependent on Mishuna alone, and here the Gemara has to have a definition, a title. So what's its incentive to damage? So I think these Gemaras are what we shouldn't talk about, and I'm not sure what the answer is. I think an halacha comes that it has to do with Mishuna, and I don't know how to put this Gemara together with it. But just to point out the Gemaras, we had 3 points about Karen. One is Mishuna and Kavanas al Hazik. Here the Gemara says also not that maybe Yisra Takifla is the Agdar of Karen. Anything which has an emotional arousal is going to be included in Karen, no matter what emotion that was. And the Gemara leaves that as a taken. Next Gemara. This goes back to the Mishnah now. The rooster, the chickens, they're muad for going their natural way and breaking as they go around alone. And that the Gemara is not going to talk. The Gemara is going to talk about the rest of the v'chulu, the etc. The Mishnah. Mishnah talks about the dlil, hayad lil. This goes back to the beginning of the parak. Hayad lil kasha b'raglo, chayv hasinezek. It says if they also mahades chayv hasinezek, and that the Gemara seems to say mahades. It's not chatzilezek. Mahadis is normal. The fact that the rooster dances around, walks, dances, that's all normal. And the Mishnah says chatzilezek, you must say that hidus v'hitis, that it shot out choros, and that's how the Gemara seems to learn the Mishnah. But there's one case over there that the Gemara here is going to talk about. It goes back to the beginning of the parak, which is that Daf Yud Ches over there. I forgot already that the parak is on Daf Yud Zayin, and it says, it's hard to scroll back over here, but if you say, look on Yud Zayin, lil kosher b'raglo. It's face chatzin ezek. Those words that a dlil. Rashi says over there, anything tied to a foot of a chicken, a rooster is called a dlil. Other side, I guess, a dli, whatever the case is. And if something was tied to the rooster's foot, it's face chatzin ezek. And that the Gemara is going to analyze How did we learn Pshat in the Mishnah? So the Gemara could have started simply and just say, why is it Chayiv Chatzin Nezek? Why should it be a Chayiv Chatzin Nezek? Just to introduce Rashi. Rashi in the Mishnah right away tells us the Gemara is going to say because the lil fell off. It shot off. It was walking with a lil tied to its foot, and it shot off, and that's how it comes Chatzin Nezek. So Rashi in the Mishnah, he usually doesn't do that. Rashi usually leads us up and keeps us hanging until we get to the Gemara. Rashi right away tells us to learn the Mishnah because it was struggles. But the Gemara doesn't know that yet. So the Gemara starting off, it says the lil is Chatzin Nezek, and we don't know why. Rav Huna. And the Gemara is not going to open up the subject straightforward and say why. The Gemara starts with the memory of Rav Huna. This Mishnah that says that it's Chayiv Chatzin Nezek, the Dlil, the Tanagol that was mazik with the Dlil, is Chayiv Chatzin Nezek. It's only if it Niksham Elav, that the Dlil got tied on by itself. The Tanagol walked next to the Dlil, let's say it's a string, whatever, a rope, and it got tied onto the foot without anybody doing it. So then the Tanagol pays, the owner of the Tanagol pays Chatzin Nezek. But if somebody, a man, tied it on, then he is chayiv to pay, which means Nezek Shalim. You have to read this into the Gemara because the Mishnah says that the case of the Dlil is chayiv Chatzin Nezek, and the Gemara says it's only if it happened by itself. But if somebody tied it on the Dlil to the foot of the Tanagol, then there's a chayiv of this chayiv. Chayiv what? Nezek Shalim. That's you have to fit into the words. True?
Why is it Shalom?
I don't know anything. I just know how to read. The Mishnah says that Dlil, if the Tanagol Haisa Dlil Kasha B'Ragel Tanagol, so Chayiv Chatzin Nezek. And the Gemara says that that's only if it happened by itself, that the Dlil got tied onto the foot by itself. But if somebody tied it on, then this Chayiv. What does Chayiv mean? Obviously Nezek Shalim, because the Mishnah says the case is Chatzin Nezek, and I say no, that's only one case. In another case, it will be Chayiv. It doesn't say Potter in the Mishnah; it says Chatzin Nezek. This must be Nezek Shalim. And the Gemara wants to know what do these words mean? It got tied by itself. It got tied by somebody tied it on. So the Gemara analyzes the statement. Niksham Elav Man Chayiv. When it says in the Mishnah that it got tied on by itself, let's get the words of the Mishnah. Hayat Lil Kasha B'Raglov. If a lil was tied to its foot, Mishalim Chatzin Nezek. And we're saying it's talking about that it got tied on by itself. Who's Chayiv Chatzin Nezek?
It got tied on by itself.
Means, well, now the Gemara is putting in an effect we didn't talk about. Below the Mishnah, of course, it means the Balatarnago. Of course, it means that's what the whole Masach has been talking about. He had a show of more,
Yeah.
But here, what the Gemara says, there's the lil belongs to somebody. The string that got entangled into the foot of the Tarnago, who did that belong to? Maybe he's responsible, and that's what the Gemara wants to know. When it got tied on by itself, who's the chayiv that it says in the Mishnah chayiv Chatzin Nezek? If it's the owner of the lil, he's chayiv Chatzin Nezek because he left his lil in a place that could get tangled into a rooster's foot, and then it's going to be mazik. So you're chayiv Chatzin Nezek. But the Gemara says he doesn't understand that. If you say that the balad lil is the one who's chayiv because he left it around, what's the case that he's chayiv? Hey, Hidami, what's the case? If he did, he put it in a safe place. He put his string in a safe place where it wasn't. He didn't have to be choshesh that a Tanagol is going to come and get tangled in it. So then, onasu, then he should be honest. He shouldn't be chayiv anything. If he didn't put it in a safe place, and he knows that if you're going to leave a string, a place where a Tanagol could come and get tangled in it and then damage, then he's posheya. He's negligent, and therefore what? Doesn't want kasha. Very nice. He's posher. That's why he's chayiv. He should be completely chayiv. The Mishnah says chayiv Chatzin Nezek. What?
Maybe it's even a bore.
Yes, it could be that it's a bore.
And he's completely chayiv. It
Yeah.
must be Chatzin Nezek.
Right. So that's the most kasha, that when it says in the Mishnah that it's chayiv, it doesn't mean the owner of the dlil, which I don't think we considered that in the Mishnah. We didn't even think of those terms. But the Gemara is opening up the subject and says that he can't be chayiv because either he's potter if it was not his fault, and if it was his fault, then he's chayiv everything. El chayiv balatanagol. It must be that Mishnah means that the balatanagol is chayiv Chatzin Nezek. There was a string. You have to say the string was left in a makom sanua. If it would have been posheya, so then the balat lil would have been chayiv. We're saying that the balatanagol is chayiv. So it must be that the balat lil didn't do anything wrong. But the balatanagol now is chayiv because he should have expected that his Tanakol could get the string from someplace.
Mhm.
I'm a little bit not clear. I'm not a kasha doctor, but it's interesting that the Baal will put it in a place which is safe enough that he doesn't have to be choshesh that the Tanakol is going to come pick it up. But the Baal Tanakol does have to be choshesh that his Tanakol is going to pick it up, because if not, then he also could say, why should have I expected my Tanakol to a place which is already it's in a safeguarded? So it's not so safeguarded, but there's a difference between the responsibility of the string owner and the Tanakol. Okay, but the Gemara wants to know still, how do you get Chatzi Nezek?
There you go, that's it.
Ma'ishna Kuli Nezek Delo. How come it doesn't pay for the whole Nezek? Means the Gemara doesn't know yet that it flew off. Rashi told us in the Mishnah that it flew off, and it's damaged in flight, like throwers, but we don't know that yet. So how did the string damage? Not in flight. The Tanakol moved it someplace. It was tangled down his foot, and then somebody got damaged from that. Somebody tripped on it, whatever the case was. The string damaged somebody to the place where the Tanakol brought it. But so what are you saying, that the Tanakol made a bore? He's saying that the owner of the little is not chayiv, because if he's chayiv, he should be chayiv chatzin nezek shalem. So he's not chayiv. So the Baal Tanakol is chayiv. What's he chayiv for? Because the Tanakol made a bore. We have a new issue. We never came up yet in the Masechta, that the Tanakol made a bore. Are you chayiv for your animal? You have your, it says show a bore ma'abehever. Bore is when you made a bore, and shore we said it's keren shein and regular. How about if your shore made a bore? Which
I'll
happens.
ask you a side question. What about if your kid makes a bar?
That's a question on everything. It's, if your child, if your child's mazik, if your
I
child,
thought,
what if your child punts
no, because
threw a rock in the window?
it says the Gemara speaks about clearly when I think it's a Mishnah, but your kid who
You're not trying for the child.
right. So it's a koshkin.
You're not trying for the child. You're not trying for the child. Even if you would have bamish with a mazik, you're not trying.
Hmm.
So the Gemara wants to know, why should the Baal Tanakol be chayiv for the boar that is chicken made? How come you know that it doesn't make chazin the whole nezek? It says in the pasuk, when a man opens up a boar, he's chayiv. Below shore boar, but it doesn't say something about a shore making a boar. So this is what the Gemara learns out, that there's no chiyuv for your shore making a boar. If your animal makes a boar, it happens. Maybe dogs sometimes dig.
Yeah.
So they might have made a boar. A tafach doesn't have to be very deep in order to be damaged, and that's not what you've done. Is how you chayiv for your shore's boar. So the Gemara says no. You're not chayiv for your shore's boar. You're only chayiv for your shore or your boar, but not your chayiv for your shore's boar.
What about if dog does its needs and then someone slips on that?
I think that's mamish the case. You're not chayiv for your dog's boar.
Because he did.
Your
There's
dog
normal. There's
made a
normal that you did.
But it could be normal. You're not chayiv for your dog. It could be. The Gemara doesn't say because it's not normal. The Gemara says you're not chayiv for your shore's boar. You're chayiv for keren shein and regular.
Maybe that's even regular. It's a part of regular. They leaves over.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't mazik in. It was mazik only was afterwards as a boar. If you would ask, what is this? You don't say it's a regular. You say it's a boar. But there was excrement on either the boar with excrement itself, someone stepped on, whatever it might have been. But you're not chayiv for your shore's boar. That's a nice application.
All the time. People get themselves dirty or whatever.
You're not chayiv for your shore's boar. Of course, they have laws nowadays. That's a
Besides, it's not me chayiv in grammar. It's not a nice thing.
There's a law.
I didn't.
If there's a law,
If there's a law, then the country can make their own laws, and that's a Torah law. Then, if the country made a law, but without that, so then you're not chayiv for your shore's boar, and that'll be a nice application. That if it had excrement, so then it's the shore made a boar. I'm not chayiv for that. I think I'm just talking.
It makes sense. I like to bring it down the nice. It helps me.
Much more nice.
Tomorrow.
So the most kasha is, how come you're happy to say that's not nezek shalem if your Tanakol made a boar? Because it says this halacha, give the hish boar, and we learn now below shore boar. Not if your shore makes a boar. So chasi nezek nami ish boar below shore boar means that this ptor is not a chasi ptor, it's a complete ptor. You're not chai if you add anything for your shore making a boar. So the mission doesn't make sense. That's the one is driving at that Mishnah that says Jechai for the deliver of your Tanakol, if it's still attached to the foot of the Tanakol and it was a boar, that was damaged as being a boar, you're not Chai for your Tanakol's boar. The Mishnah is talking about that it threw it. So Rashi says the word Adi Aduya means that it threw it, that it threw this Dalil, and the Mishnah could have started off Ramish to say it simply, that how come you only Chayiv Chatzi Nezek for the Dalil of your Tanakol? And the answer is going to be that you threw it, and that's how Rashi explains it in the Mishnah, that it's Throros, and it's another example of Throros, that your Tanakol threw the string off of its foot and it damaged the in-flight, which I don't know exactly how it does that, but it was strong enough to knock something over, whatever. And you chayiv for chatzi nezek because it's shorus. But
It wasn't connected to the tourniquet, and
right, because if it would have been connected, then it would have been regular,
then it would have been regular.
and it would have been
If it
chayiv.
was just lying there, it would have been.
It would have been lied there. Someone tripped on, then it's born. You're not chayiv anything.
Yeah.
Either you chayiv everything, you're not chayiv anything. So the case of chatzi nezek, the only way you can explain it is that it was mazik in flight, and that's going to be shorus chatzi nezek. Now,
Or
the problem,
it had to have damaged in flight.
right,
Otherwise, it's a bore.
right.
Yeah.
V'chi itma the Rav Huna ba'alma itma. But Rav Huna, now we have to go back to Rav Huna. Rav Huna said that the Mishnah is talking about that it got tied by itself, but if a man tied it, then it will be chayiv. And that the Gemara says, once you say that the Mishnah is talking about adi aduye, once you're talking about that the tarnigal was damaged in flight because it threw it off, so you can't learn Rav Huna was talking about the Mishnah. Why not? The Gemara continues now. The Gemara now, after it came out to the Maskana, the Mishnah about the Adi Aduye. Fine, that's found in the Mishnah, Adi Aduye.
But if a man tied it and the tourniquet
Was Adi
didn't fly
Aduye.
off,
So then what? So Huna
why
said,
couldn't he just roughly would say he's chayiv for squirrels? Oh, he's not chayiv for.
if Huna says that chayiv, that the Mishnah is only talking about if it happened by itself, it got tied on by itself. But if a man tied it onto the tarnigal, then Nezik Shalim.
Oh, that's right. The same way.
So what's Nezik Shalim? Who's chayiv Nezik Shalim? And then the Mishnah says, and the Gemara says now that Rav Huna, once we figured out that the Mishnah's case of the tarnigal with the lil is that it threw it off in its strovos, so Rav Huna couldn't have said on that Mishnah that if a man tied it on, the man is chayiv Nezik Shalim. I think Taisus explains. Rashi says one thing. Taisus explains different than Rashi that it wouldn't be that the man is chayiv all by himself. The Rav Huna is mashma that if the man would have tied it on, so then the man is going to be chayiv by himself. Nezik Shalim, and that's what the Gemara can be, because if the case, the way that the Tanakh was mazik was by throwing it, so he's also this, and he'd be chayiv half also. It could be that the man's going to be chayiv, but Tanakh also will be chayiv. Is that what Taisus says? And that's going to be talking about the little hefker. Either was hefker or there's no person to be responsible. The friend put in a good place. There's nobody else responsible. One is talking about in a different case, because Toshi says, why can't he be going on the Mishnah? Because the kosher adam chayiv mashma kol. That's how Toshi explains why the Gemara has to now find that if one wasn't going on the Mishnah, because once we said that the Mishnah is talking about that the chicken threw it and it's strovos, so then it wouldn't be that the man would be chayiv all by himself. Even if the man was negligent, and he's going to be chayiv, but the Tanakh is also going to be chayiv. So for the Gemara has to find that if Huna was not talking about the Mishnah, that's a continuation of the Rav Huna. Rav Huna was not calling the Mishnah. It was Rav Huna talking about a little hefker. Not that is a person to say that the person is chayiv. A little hefker. I'm not sure yet. Rav Huna nikshem eila poter. Kashva adam chayiv. That's what Rav Huna said. What do you have? You have a little hefker, and it got tied on by itself to the Tanakh. So then the Mishnah makes sense. I'm not going in the Mishnah. Nikshem eila poter. Who's poter? Who's poter? Nikshem eila poter. Who's poter? Bala Tanakh. Why is he poter? Because they didn't have to expect. Why is he poter? Because it was not mazik in flight. He's not. That's if it's mazik in flight. That's the Mishnah. The Tanakh will be chayiv, at least half. The case is that he's talking about a case where it was not mazik in flight. It was mazik after, as a bore, after it stopped. So the reason why the Baal Tanakh is poter is because ish bor v'lo shor bor. You're not chayiv for your Tanakh is born. So that Rav Huna said, Kasher Adam chayiv. But if somebody tied on the lil onto the Tanakh foot, and then it was mazik as a bor. So then we go back to the Baal of Lil and say, you made a bor. He said, I didn't make a bor over here. I made a bor over there. So we tell the bor is galgel. Mishumai chayiv. Why is the person going to be chayiv? Which we had a long time ago at the above, that if someone made a bor in one place, and it would have been chayiv over there, and then it got moved by, kicked around by people or by animals, and it's a bor someplace else, you're chayiv for that also. And maybe that's the Gemara talked about. Maybe you have to have on Salah Shabbat in order to learn that out. But the Ma'aseh you are chayiv. You're chayiv for bor misgalgal. Or the case over there also about Avdos Kinam Aso Shnichin Borosh Gago, and it fell Lachadanayich. It's also going to be a bor, even though it was not a bor in the place that you made it, but it was possible to become a bor. You're chayiv for that also. Maybe you have to have a Salah Shabbat, Shor and bor together, or Asian bor together. But the Ma'aseh you are chayiv. So that's the end of the Gemara. What happens now? We have Shad in the Mishnah when it says in the Mishnah that there was a delil and time to go through it. As Chayiv Chatzi Nezek, the case is because he threw it, and it's a regular case of throwers. In that case, even if somebody would have tied it on, and he's also Chayiv, but the Tanagol is also going to be Chayiv. Each was going to be Chayiv maybe half. The Shutlan, they're accomplices in this damage. We found out a new halacha that we didn't know, that you're not Chayiv for your animal's bor, and in the case where the delil would have been mazik, not in flight, but it would have been mazik stationary. So then you're not going to be chayiv for that because it's only the bor of your tanagol. You're not chayiv for that. But if it was if it rolled around, so then the original person who made a bor will put it in a place where it could become a bor. He's going to be chayiv. The tanagol is not chayiv because he made a bor. But the person who made it potential bor, because he knew that there's possibility that it could get kicked around by animals or by the tanagol, he's going to be chayiv because bor misgalgel. That a bor which was put in one place and moved someplace else, the original person who put it down was chayiv. So the person who was negligent with his lil putting it in a place where it could get kicked around is chayiv. So that's
Even though it got moved around, and even if it got pushed by
an animal, right? Or people, an animal. The responsibility still stays on him.
And that's what Rav meant when he said chayiv.
Right. He wasn't talking about our Mishnah because our Mishnah would have been the Tanagol also would have been chayiv because our Mishnah is talking about that he threw it. If he threw it, the Tanagol is also going to be chayiv. Maybe both of them will be chayiv. Each one will pay half. But
It sounded like he was responding to both cases,
to the Mishnah.
Yeah.
That's the Gemara started off. The Gemara says you must say that now. We thought. Loishanu sounds. The word Loishanu means on the Mishnah. The Mishnah is talking about a certain case, but the Gemara came out that it's not true. You have to say it's going by Almeit, it's going on a case of a little hefker, and there he said that the Tanagol is putter for making a bor, but the person who made it into a bor that the Tanagol is going to take, he's going to be fine. Next Mishnah. So we had so for case of Regel, and now goes case of Hashem, and really Shem went before Regel in the previous Mishnah, but the Gemara for some reason put case of Regel first. Case of Hashem where the slechel. So I'm saying pshat not like Rashi says, but the simple pshat. Case of Hashem where the slechel saroila goes back in the paragraph before. It said there are Hamishim Muadim. One of them is Regel, one of them is Shane. Hashem where the slechel saroila. That Shane is a muad for eating appropriate foods. And on that the Gemara, that's the and the Ketzad. How is that? Explain that. Elaborate on that. And the Gemara explains. An animal is a muad to eat food. Normal food, peros, that's why fruits, vegetables, that's considered normal food. And animal is chayiv nezek shalom. Of course, in the Chatzar Nizik, it's going to say soon that it's just Rav Mitzpatim. But if it ate things that are not normal, achlak, sus, or kalim, mishal chatzar nezek. But if it ate things that are not normal, garments or utensils, that's not food. So then chatzar nezek because it's mishuna. Is it kavanas al hazik? I don't know, but it's mishuna, and therefore it's going to pay chatzar nezek. When is regular? When is Shane Chayiv? Regular and Shane. Not only Shane, regular also. When is it Chayiv? Only B'Shus and Nizik, but B'Shus and Rabbim, Shane is Potter. This is where the Mishnah tells us Shane B'Shus Rabbim is Potter. That's another halacha that we have now. Back onto this B'Shus and Rabbim, even when you Potter for Shane, and you don't have to pay for that damages, but you do have to pay for what you benefited. This is not so much mazik, not mitzad mazik, but you benefited, and that was going to talk about. That how do you calculate that? That the man has to always give lunch to his animal, and today the animal ate B'Shus Rabbim, and he comes home he's not hungry, and you save on the meal. So for that, you have to pay how much you saved on the meal that you would have had to give him. You don't have to pay for the damages. You have to pay for how much you benefited, like you benefited from him, so you do have to pay him how much you benefited. Case of Mishlemes Mashanenis. What will be the case that he paid Mashanenis, which is really the Mishnah is asking, what's B'Shus Rabbim? It's not going to go into how do you cheshbon mashanenis. It's going into when do you pay mashanenis because you fought it because it's rishus harabim, and when is it chai because it's rishus hayachid. Also, this was what Levi Yaakov was talking about. I think about where the stands in front of the store. What's considered rishus harabim? If the animal ate from the middle of the plaza, middle of the street, which they say the corridor was a good example. The corridor was the old shuk of the Romans. So they had on the sides, you had the stores, then you had the pillars, the colonnade, and then in the middle was the street. So mitoch harachav would be in the middle. That's the place where the people walk, the animals walk. So if you put your food down over there and the animal ate it up, it's rishus harabim, so it's butter. But when it comes to the side where the stores are, this might be the case Moshe was talking about in the first storefronts. So I don't know the case of the Judaica store that is like it's called the side. It's like it's the side, but it's not just the street. How big is the whole street? It's
But what about Machne Yehuda? Like if you go there when it's closed,
you have another couple
I mean,
of
there's a whole, they put everything out. I
Right.
mean, it's not fair because you don't bring animals in.
right. But if you would, so then it
If you
says
would,
animals.
is
It
that
seems
like
animals are
part
not
of
on
the rishus
animals.
harabim?
That's what they call private domain. If
That's part of the
it's on the side where the people are allowed to put their stuff, that's not called rishus harabim. If you put it in the middle where the animals go, so the animal's not supposed to turn its head to go into all the stands over there. It's supposed to just walk straight. And then if it ate from the middle of the street, then it's going to be rishus harabim. But if it ate from the side, then it's considered rishus hayachid. Then it would have to pay. Another case, if it ate from the store front, in front of the store, that's mashanenis because that's where it's allowed to be. But from the inside, it went into the store, and surely Mashe that's coming into his property, that's Rishus Yachid. So it does say here that Pesach HaChanus is Rishus Harabim, and Mitoch HaRachav is Rishus Harabim. Maybe the Gemara will elaborate more. So this is about Shein, we'll talk about Shein. Atani Rabbanan, Shein whether Slachal Saroy Loketzad. So it's going to say more or less what the Mishnah said. The animal went into the chatzar nizik, which is what the Mishnah says, which is Rabbim is butter. If it went into the chatzar nizik and it ate foods that's normal, or drinks that are normal for it, nizik shalim, that's called shein b'shus ha nizik. The chein chaya, we had this Mishnah quoted before, talk about the lion over there. Chaya shenichnas al chatzar nizik, v'torfa b'meim v'bach lavosa misham nizik shalim. Also chaya, if you own the chaya, I don't get it, but so far it sounds like you have a pet lion and you're walking down the street and it ate animals that is normal to eat in a normal way, like Torfa Bem Vach Labasa. There the Gemara had to stop over here because it's not normal for a lion to tear apart an animal, so that should be carried and they're going to shuna. And that the Gemara says you have to explain Torfa Behema Laniach or Achlabasa that it tore apart an animal, but then it took it home to its cubs. So that's normal. So that's the same Rishus Harabim. Or Achlabasa when it was doris and it ate meat, that's the normal way of eating. All these cases is Mishal Nezik Shalim only because it's Chatzar Nizik. Okay, I say in my case of going with the pet lion down the street means that Rishus Harabim going to be potter because it's normal. He said, "What do you want? This is a lion. It's normal to eat up." So you potter. I don't get it. I always don't get it. How are you allowed to walk in the street with your pet lion? But here it talks about Chatzar Nizik, and then you are Chayiv for Shein. So it says that it's normal. As long as it's normal things, then it's going to be Chayiv Nizik Sholim because Shein B'Rishus HaNizik. It continues.
Maybe it's not talking about lion. Maybe it's only talking about.
The Gemara said before it's talking about a lion. There was the Gemara before. The Gemara problems with the lion. There's ended the period before that was on Tezayin with Beza, Mashmur, the Ribishus Harabim, Das Rachel Pater.
Could it
They
be that
have
was a
to-
normal thing to have? Like
Well,
today, people have a dog. You can't tell.
So they had. So I think that they didn't have lions. I think so.
They didn't have lions.
Yeah, I don't think they had lions. And you
So
can
how
eat
the
up.
clouds allowed to walk in the street with a lion?
Yeah, I don't think that. I think you're not allowed to. And if you did, then you're going to be and you're going to be put there because it tore apart an animal. You had whatever, you had a sheep, a cow, and the lion. He's going down with his lion, and it ate up. It says, "What are you doing? You're my lion." I don't get it. I don't get the scenario. I've written down to look in the Pnei Shua Yam Shalom. I have some Mama comes that didn't get a chance to look at it, but I don't get it. I don't get it. But as far as the Mishnah, that's what it might says. Chaya, you can say Chaya means a dog. Maybe I'm not sure, or a cat. But here it says that it tore apart an animal. No, that sounds like a big animal, not a little dog or something like that. It tore apart an animal, so it's normal. And it says Chasan Nizik is going to be 5 Nizik Shalem, and Shisra was going to be Potter. Parashach Lakas Orin, Hamoshach Lakashinin, Kelev Shalik Kesashemen, Chazir Shach Chatik Shalbasa, Vishlam Nizik Shalem. The Brisa says more cases of shame, and it's considered normal, and it gives cases that are not so normal. Usually a parah eats kashinim. Kashinim is kind of a bean, vetch, and sorim is barley. Usually a chamor is barley, and a parah eats kashinim. A parah shachal kashinim. So here the Mishnah says, switches it around. That a parah ate food which is not so normal. It ate barley. Usually a cow doesn't eat barley. Not so usual. And the chum that ate kashinim also not so usual. Also, another two cases that are not so normal. Usually dogs eat meat, and the chazir, it sounds here like it would lick on oil. But they did the opposite. The dog licked the oil, and the chazir ate the meat. All these cases, and that the Gemara opens up that these four cases here with the parah, chamor, keleb, and chazir, they're not such normal cases. They don't usually eat that, and still it's considered shame. Now you just finish that as long as it's nechal al de'at chak. So we got a new category. There are those foods that are normal. There are those foods that are absolutely not normal, and there are those foods that are de'at chak. That's not his first choice, but if it's very hungry, he has no choice, it would eat it. So here it says that those foods are also considered shame. So even though the chamor prefers sorin, if it only has kashin, it will eat it. And the parah also, it prefers kashin, but if it only has sorin, it will eat it. Same thing with the keleb and the shemen, the chazir, the basa. So nechal de'at chak, it's still considered shame. And Papa was impressed with this chiddush, and he says, "Now I'm going to make applications also, other things that are nechal al de'at chak. I should have dachal tamri or chamar dachal benisa, mishal nezek shalem." So too, a cat that ate tamarim, dates, it's not so normal. But if the cat has nothing else, he's going to eat dates also. Or a chamar that ate a fish, usually chamar doesn't eat fish. Maybe the cats eat the fish, but the chamar usually doesn't. But if he has no choice, he does. So also nezek shalem, because that's considered nechal al de'at chak. Okay, Ad Khan. We're up to 5 lines in the bottom.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. I might not head on the camera today. I'm sorry, Ruben. I might not have.
Yeah.
Okay.